welcome to the Fourth Estate, your number one current affairs program on television, where we look at national issues from the media perspective. My name is Folashade Ogurinde and I'm your host for this program. Well, I promise we have lots and lots of interesting issues to talk about, topical issues happening around Nigeria. The first, which is World Bank's bailout to Nigeria's power sector, hits $1.2 billion in 4 years. State of Lagos roads terrible, says Jakonde, adds that Lagos State government must do something about it. NAS considers the registration of 85 political parties set for oversight visit to Kogi, Bayelsa over Guba polls. And the final issue on this episode, why we adopted spiritual warfare to counter Boko Haram, says Buratai. I promise this episode is going to be very interesting. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. This is still the Fourth Estate. I'm your host, Folashade Ogurinde. I'm joined in the studio today by two eminent journalists. I'm joined by Mr. Johnson. I am Tuji, is a journalist and a public affairs analyst. I'm also joined by Mr. Thompson. Ilo Digwe is also a journalist. How are you doing, gentlemen?
I'm fine.
Very fine.
Many thanks for honoring the invitation.
It's not been here.
Okay, so let's head now to the very first topic. World Bank's bailout to Nigeria's power sector hits $1.2 billion in 4 years. Now we have a fresh loan taken by Nigeria from the World Bank, and questions are being asked. Now this report is saying World Bank's bailout to Nigeria's power sector hits $1.2 billion in 4 years. So that means we've accrued debts over the years, and now Nigeria is taking more loans from the World Bank. Now, the topical issue here, or what people are raising eyebrows to, is the fact that we all know how the Nigerian power sector is now. We rarely have a stable power supply, and over the years, this report is saying we've taken bailouts from the World Bank. Could you please, what is the relationship between taking debts and trying to improve the power sector and the present state of the power sector, which of course is not up to par with what should be?
Well, if I may comment, I'll start with this discussion.
Okay.
The issue is this: there's no way you can develop if you don't. Because right now, the oil that we rely on is not bringing us revenue. Because even the Minister of Finance said yesterday that the issue with Nigeria is our revenue. And so, if it's a revenue, how do we get money to do or repair our infrastructure? And infrastructure is very, very, very critical in any nation's development. And of course, power is very critical. Now, if this government goes out or go to World Bank for a bailout, which means it's a loan that we are taking to do what? To develop critical infrastructure. There's nothing wrong with that. The only way I have issue with this is that if we take that loan and we don't see what they are doing with it, because at the end of the day, we'll all go back to square one. And that was what has happened. I don't want to mention names or what happened. The successive governments, right from 1999, went out at the time. The Obasanjo administration, it was about $16 billion or so that they took. We know where the thing ended. We know where it ended. But we can see a semblance of what they are doing with this government, what they are doing. Because over the years, if you go to Mambila, that I said, for how many, over 40 years now, not a single plant or not a single block have been laid there for the dam there.
So if that's the case, why do we need to go back to the World Bank again to receive more loans, knowing that Nigeria is deep in its neck in debts?
But the thing is this: whether we take it or don't, we need these things. We need these things. It depends on how you manage the loan, and it depends on how the purpose for which you took that loan, whether you deployed it to the purpose for which you took that loan. That is the issue we need to address.
If I may come in, to a very large extent, I want to agree with you. Your views are quite commendable, but I have some issues. First is, we all know the story around Greece as a country, what they are going through now. It's because of mountain loans.
Which you are unable to service or to
That's
pay.
the point.
And Nigeria is even having that same issue of servicing their loans.
That's it. Now, you mentioned that we completely rely on oil to a very large extent. Over 80% of our IGR is from oil. And we know that oil cannot be relied upon now for a number of reasons.
Okay.
And you are still increasing the debt profile. And we're not seeing an equilibrium in the expansion of revenue base away from oil. I'm coming. So you realize that one need to look at it again critically. Before you assess a loan, there's what they call risk assessment.
That's right.
Are we having proper risk assessment? Ability to pay back. Now, you see the government going by all manner of means to get increase its revenue, increasing taxes, trying to multitask people, businesses that are dying. Now, the point is this: while I want to agree to the fact that there's a need for us to get source for facilities to revamp the infrastructure that is either decayed or dying for future purposes, so we can get more, increase our nets to harness more. Before you can harness more, you've got to expand your facilities. I disagree with the approach the country or our economic team currently is going about, expanding its revenue base. People have been saying think outside the box, think outside the box. I know other countries who are now thinking, for instance, let me use America for instance. America, they deal on oil a lot, but the amount budgetary allocation to entertainment alone in the past 4 years, if not almost more than the budgetary allocation of the country, what are they doing? They are thinking in words. They are looking at other means of, instead of killing people with taxes, people should think creatively on how else to generate incomes beyond loans, because no matter how you look at it, it's our future generation. We are mortgaging their future. We are mortgaging 30 years. The loans, some of the loans my taxes are servicing now were the loans borrowed in the days of my father. And the loans we are borrowing now will be serviced by my grandchildren.
No, hold on.
Okay. Please go on, Mr. Ayantibu.
Obasanjo's administration took Nigeria out of debt. Kudos to that administration.
Critically though.
Now, if they are able to do that, but afterward, Nigeria did not build on that. And what I mean by that is that even before this administration came on board, Nigeria had been borrowing to pay salaries. That's where I have issue. That's where I have issue. And then they don't also forget that this loan that they are taking now, it's not that they just give them cash and say take. But it has to come in form of either the equipment, those that will come and install it, just as the Chinese are doing with the railway.
Now, going back to my first question, what is the probability that it would not be as it used to be? Would we see? I want to ask the questions clearly.
Okay.
Are we going to see a revamping of the power sector? For example, as an average Nigerian, are we going to enjoy stable power supply as Nigerians? Because of course,
it's not the issue of
it's really affecting the economy.
The issue of power supply is that yes, we've been able to generate. Generation is not a problem, but it's the evacuation, distribution is not the problem with us in Nigeria.
Why?
Because the facilities for distributing this they are obsolete, and they need to be replaced. Now look at this line, this KVA that you see, even in the bush and what have you. Was it day first or day that I saw that the helicopters, 2 of them, in the days of NEPA, they are put there for sale now. The one they used to trace the lines and what have you. For this national grid, they want to sell them. Why do they want to sell them? Because NEPA is moribund. NEPA is no more. So the thing is that the issue of power goes beyond just generation. Generation, yes, but distribution, how we distributing it. Not only that, the transmission itself is a problem. And there are quite a lot of power outages and what have you. But it's just unfortunate that with the privatization of the power in the sector in the country, Nigeria has not been able to get out of the holes. Because the same people who are there are the ones that are still there.
Okay,
And corruption is entrenched in the system. It's almost like, I remember there was a place I was staying in some years back. Why? The history of that place is a federal government owned estate. They started metering phase 1, phase 2. They metered phase 1. Phase 2 of the housing estate, they stopped about what? 10%. They didn't do that. And about 90% of the units in that estate were only connected to public land, but nobody came to this thing. The meter were not there. Some they don't even for years and what have you, they were not paying.
Okay,
Is that the fault of government?
We need to go for a break now, and when we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go anywhere. We'll join you shortly. Welcome back. This is still the Fourth Estate. The conversation was really heated up in the studio, but we need to move on now to another topical issue. Now, NAS considers the registration of 85 political parties set for oversight visit to Kogi, Bayelsa over Guba polls. Now, of course, it's the job of the NAS to create, laws, and they're in charge of our legislature and all of that. And Nigeria practices a multi-party system. So, if that is the case, the registering 85 political parties, is that constitutional in the light of democracy as we practice in Nigeria? If you say you want to deregister 85 political parties, of course, they give reasons for that new move. According to the report, Kabiru Gaya, Chairman Senate Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), has revealed that plans were on by the National Assembly to deregister at least 85 political parties before 2023 elections. It claimed most of the political parties were just figureheads, with most having no relevance or elected personalities. What's your reaction to this?
Well, they have oversight function on such matters. That's one. Then the second thing is there are laid down guidelines to forming a political party. You've got to meet the requirements before INEC registers you. So if you are falling short on the requirements, I don't think there's anybody should begin to raise problems when you are deregistered. However, if the political parties felt that they are up to date with what the laws are said, they should go to court. But we equally have to look at it. Let it not be again a game of political witch hunt. Where the National Assembly see how to maybe political parties that are not comfortable with their views, or they want to move it out. But over and beyond that, I'm concerned with some moves, because in other climes, an individual can actually come out and stand for himself and be elected as the president. We've seen it happen. I think Nigeria should go towards that. Because
sort of coming through a party.
No, you have political parties, but you can be a candidate, and if you feel you are that popular.
No, that's talking about independent candidacy.
Independent candidacy.
Which we don't have right now
yes,
in Nigeria.
Nigeria, yes, that's what I'm saying.
For the NAS to say that they will deregister political parties. Now, don't also forget that that will be going, I don't know how to put it now, overboard. Because these ones, it was a court, the Supreme Court, that said that also constitutional, that you cannot, whether I say, okay, they want to, that's coming about freedom of association, which is entrenched in the Constitution. However, like he said, if they don't meet up, naturally they will die. So there's no point losing sleep that they are listening. The only thing I have is that if a party, you may decide to play either at a council level at state level,
Level or federal level.
or federal level. So that because if you look at it very well, there are quite some parties that won, I don't know how many states now, that they are not beyond the states where they are. There are some, okay, like this Young People's Party, it's only the basic that one is, the Senate seat.
I mean, the
In
seat
Anambra.
has the seat has even been the winner of the seat has even crossed to another party.
To across to another party. So if you look at it very well, there's no point or there's no need for National Assembly or the Senate to be dissipating energy over that they want to deregister political parties. Let them just die out naturally. If people don't they are not able to produce.
But if you listen to some of the arguments, I mean the Senate, part of it is that INEC gives some sum.
No. You see, that is why they will make sure that if whatever law they're going to make now is that if you don't have any seats, automatically you are not entitled to any grant.
I mean, if
Because one of the concerns raised is that that most of them have no relevance or elected personalities.
That's why they have.
So does that
right.
disqualify them
Of course, that's
automatically?
Of course. I mean, why would I? If they go over the nation, part of the things for a party to be, go national, is that one, you must be able to fill a candidate for each of the posts, elected posts, and you are not able to do that, and then you have presence in all the states of the federation. And if you don't, what are you doing there?
I mean, but
So what are you doing?
But with all due respect, if you really look at it, some of these political parties you just mentioned, by the laid down principles, are very qualified.
They
Good.
are.
I mean, you will see them. I'm coming. You will see in virtually all local governments, some of these parties, you will see a small shop with their low banner, and nobody ever opens that shop. I mean, they have their offices.
That is where INEC has to come in with their inspection, making sure that they go and see. But fortunately, Nigerians,
So
way of doing things.
so it's basically a question of balance. As
Yeah.
long as these people
Yeah,
have fulfilled the requirements, then let them be.
Yeah.
All right.
Or the NAS should then amend the statutes, amend the constitution,
a requirement to register.
no,
as
to
a-
empower them to have the capacity to register as members.
All right. Why we adopted spiritual warfare to counter Boko Haram, says Buratai. Now, of course, Nigeria is a very religious nation, although it's been said that Nigerians are religious yet the most corrupt. However, putting that aside, with regards to warfare, everyone believes in guns, artillery, and stuff like that to put out a supposed enemy. But Buratai is saying that they would need to adopt spiritual warfare. Now, is there a balance between because of course when someone in the army says something like that, some people would raise eyebrows, of course, because you'd expect a top official in the army to mention things about the supremacy of artillery and weapon of warfare and things like that. Is it scary to Nigerians to see that a top official is saying that Nigeria would need to resort to spiritual warfare? Are we even safe? Please, I want your reactions
Okay,
on
you
this.
want me to take it up? Okay, I would think it's novel for the military hierarchy to come to say they need divine intervention. I mean, I don't think. Oh, it has happened before. I know one general then that suggested that I think that was a South African a Nigerian general suggested that they should go spiritual. I just don't want to mention names. They should go spiritual. The military should go spiritual in fighting a particular challenge. And in local parlance, because when we're talking religion, we're not talking only Christians, Muslims. You're talking of Hindus. You're talking of traditional practitioners and all of that. I know I'm not a Yoruba man, but I read history where the Yorubas have a special kind of, is it called Uriki or something? whenever there is a war. So it's not a new practice in Africa. You know, if using ordinary machete and all of that didn't work, some people will buff themselves with some kind of spiritual fortification.
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm coming, sir. sorry. I know this is a different topic for you.
Okay, please. No, I want you to finish. So
Let-
you
I want to-
you
so-
have your time to react.
So I'm just trying to trace history to say this is not the first time. I mean, it might be wearing a different cloak, but it's not the first time. Now, it depends on the approach. Is he saying we want religious leaders to be praying against principalities and powers that might be plotting this war because it looks beyond the human strength? Or is he saying that we want to use some African metaphysics to get our brothers?
No, in the army,
fortified?
according to Colonel, in the army, you're either a Christian or a Muslim. And if you're a Christian, you're either a Protestant
I'm just
or
trying
a
to play around
Catholic.
it.
So I think in the army, they don't allow traditional worship. But please go ahead.
I'm trying to play around it, but whichever way, I think it's novel. I think we should start to pray, but beyond prayers. Boko Haram, for instance, actually emanated like a religious war. Boko Haram, the meaning of the word, tells you that they are actually waging a religious war. They believe it's a mindset thing. And when you want to deprogram the mind, you either go to the psychologists or you go to religious houses. So if they are saying, let's employ the hands of religious leaders, let it not just stop at praying. Let's look at the possibility of getting these religious leaders involved in possibly de-radicalizing some of these radicalized brothers and sisters.
Okay, now I want to pick up from what you said last. We've seen videos of soldiers in the United States Army, maybe they doing a small prayer within themselves, and of course would have people who are religious in every area of life. But the question now is, do we resort basically, because Nigerians are known to be very religious, and even when we know that this issue needs physical action, we are quick to always say, God help us, God please help. It's a good thing. But in the light of the fact that Boko Haram as it stands, we have banditry in Nigeria, we have kidnappings, we have lots and lots of insecurity in Nigeria. Are we now saying that we will need religion to curb insecurity, or what exactly is going on? We would expect that the Nigerian army should use their artillery, their weapons and everything to crush Boko Haram or whatever bandits, or I want Mr. Ayotunji to speak on this.
You see, I'm coming from the man, whatever you are doing as a human being, there's no way you can take out the spiritual aspect of it. The book of Proverbs says that a horse is mere ready for the day of battle, but safety is on the Lord. And also the same Bible says that in Psalm 127, if I'm correct now, that unless the Lord builds the house, the laborers, they do what? They build it. And unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen, they wait but obey. In Galatians, it says that for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness, against spiritual wickedness in high places. You don't see them, but they exist. And if you don't bring in you also forget, I read a book about a man of God, William Conway by name, that said even the first man needs a higher force. And what is that higher force? We're talking about the power of God beyond man. Because if you go into the Bible, I read a book about if I'm getting now, Entebbe, the raid of Israel in Entebbe, 90 minutes at Entebbe. And he described, he went through the Bible, and the strategies David adopted in the Bible to fight his own war. That is very army too, did something like that, and they were able to do that. Now, so when we talk about spiritual aspect of warfare, it means that what? You're calling on higher realm, an unseen God to help you. Just because Demon said, I was saying something about everything that has to do with man. It has spiritual backing. It's whatever is settled in spiritual realm that will only see in the physical. So now, do you even know that even businessmen, there are times that even the policies have been enunciated by government might be for others may not agree with this. I don't want them to agree, they may and they may not. But it can also affect even the welfare of a man, because why? There's a higher power that is after you. So that when that policy comes into being, everything, your line of business and everything, and now to square zero. So talking about what Voltaire said, like he said, we don't know what he wants, whether aspect, because whatever spiritual challenges we have in Nigeria today, they have the spiritual forces behind it. And as they will bring God, the God factor into it. Then, of course, you can go with your athletics and guns and everything. Okay. Have you ever seen the situation where they face somebody and then they shoot a gun at him and the thing doesn't come, listen?
Okay, now, everyone agrees to a certain extent that, spiritual welfare is important. But in the light of the fact that, most people feel that the Nigerian army is not really doing enough, or the federal government is not really doing enough in terms of, maybe a budget allocation, equipment, and, funds even for the soldiers. Now, how do we balance? Because if you're saying, okay, spiritual welfare, fine, but if you're not doing what you ought to do, in terms of army strategy or intelligence.
Hold on. You see,
because now one question everyone asks is, who exactly is Boko Haram? The Nigerian army has said they are faceless.
Hold on.
How exactly?
The kind of war they are fighting, unlike a conventional warfare that your enemy is where they are. These ones, they come, they strike, and then they run back. So it makes it a little bit difficult. And then don't also forget, like I said here on this set some time ago, that whatever war, all over the world, you can't rule out corruption from the officers. You can't rule out fit communists. Those who will be, they are double agents. They pretend they are with you, and yet they are connecting something, and then they are leaking your secret. Why is it that our soldiers are ambushed? If not that people are giving them information that is not supposed to be given to them. So when you look at all these things, there are so many, factors that go about that militate against whatever effort.
I know you have something to say, but our time is fast spent. We need to go now.
Just a second. A second will be fine. Look, that thing you just said also have a flip side to it. The flip side is this: if we don't properly communicate what they are talking about, spiritual warfare, it will be interpreted for we are helpless. So even the military is helpless. We're now resorting to God. So managing the information, so we understand that what they are saying is not that the military is helpless, it's not that we don't have guns, it's not that we're not on ground.
But it needs spiritual backing to the fight.
Spiritual backing. So communication is important.
All right.
Of which the men of God on both sides can also come in to help them to bring in petition before God. I give you an instance.
Oh, but we need to go, Mr. Ayantunji. Time is not on our side. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayantunji. We have a lot to talk about. Even the state of bad roads in Lagos State, according to Jakonde, he's saying that Lagos State government must do something about it. But time is not on our side. I need to say many thanks to Mr. Johnson Ayantunji for coming on the program. Many thanks, sir. And many thanks to Mr. Thompson Ilodigwe. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so we need to call it a wrap on the program. We'll see you again next week. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.